everybody. Happy post-Easter week. It is Tuesday, so we're back on a Tuesday. Felt right today. And going into some great questions. We've discussed multiple times. Actually, let me go into Easter first. I almost came on live on Easter and then the day got away with me, but I wanted to just check in and see if you guys were feeling the presence of the Emerald Dragon. Emerald Dragon was very, very present all of Easter weekend, really helping us to move into the energy of our own inner truth. The Emerald Ray there that she is that inner truth. What have you not been willing to see before? What have you needed to come up in your face to really finally see those subtleties, those pieces? And then in addition, we had so much going on with the energy of all the middle and deep earth dragons, those inner earth dragons. Again, they've been around for a couple weeks now and just really seeing and feeling the connection and why they've been present with us. So you might have been paying attention to or feeling that over Easter weekend. I hope you had a beautiful, whatever you do to celebrate that or not, that you had a beautiful expansion into the energies that provided. I know it was really lovely for us here. We finally got some spring warm days and just enjoyed the glorious sun and the lightness of heart and my own inner journey and the pieces that were coming from me. Not that there weren't some hard pieces on the weekend. There were a couple that really took me into some deep stuff that's like some of those final threads, and so it was a real blessing. But today I want to go into a question that I got asked last week and then another one that I just saw on a new post today. So the relationship between dragon and serpent. How are they connected? Are they connected? And this that we've discussed multiple times, DragonHearts, Dragon Riders, DragonKeepers, what are all these different terms? What is the difference? And you can go back and listen on the YouTube channel and do a search, Dragon Rider or DragonHeart, and see, or even DragonKeeper, where I've talked about it other times, and maybe there's a subtly different take or some extra information detail that maybe I don't go into today. But this should be fairly comprehensive for those of you that haven't seen that before, are still wondering and feeling like these terms, they have a deep meaning that comes up through my body, and I don't know if I really understand the difference. So let's dive into, let's start with DragonHeart. That's me. I'm a DragonHeart, as are many that have gone through my Way the DragonHeart program. And what does that really mean? For me, that is on your first soul level incarnation, when you were created as a soul. You were created in a realm. Could have been the Rainbow Realms, could have been the Dragon Realms, could have been a Pleiadian system, could have been here on Earth. Your first experience coming into being as a soul is in a specific format or framework of energy that has an expression or a definition based on how that energy is perceived. And for me, that core level is dragon. That's what I consider a DragonHeart, that you are a dragon, you're living as a human here, and yet you know that deep in your heart, like, I'm a dragon. On a soul level, I'm a dragon. That's what I am. So a DragonHeart is one that is waking up and merging with that DragonHeart, with the format of the heart of the dragon that is a beautiful crystalline double diamond pyramid and a core fire. And that as your heart and your high heart activate in your ascension journey and you come into that recognition of self that is dragon and start that merge process, that becomes more solidified and you start feeling that passion, that core fire of what is truly in your heart to be doing, living, feeling yourself fully in your dragon power, fully in your wisdom, fully in your love. The whole journey, the way the DragonHeart is to get to that merged place with that dragon, where it's just you, here's your soul expression in this, and there's the core soul level that is fully dragon. How is that different than a Dragon Rider? And I did have a program, one of my Quantum Flight programs, and most of the later work has actually been more Dragon Riders. There's still a few DragonHearts, but it's interesting how many Dragon Riders have been waking up. And for me, the difference there is if you comprehend like a twin flame split, how a soul can split and have two corollary parts that are so deeply connected that at some point they'll merge back together and link and become that original unique one soul again, right? That's a masculine feminine split. That's what people know as a twin flame. Well, some that have gone through that are dragon at their core decide to go through that to have an expression as Dragon Rider. So their, I guess, soul level would be the Rider and the Dragon together in perfect pairing, but they never fully split like a twin flame does. The twin flame has like a cord of connection, I guess, that would still come back together. But the Dragon Rider feels like it never splits fully because they typically incarnate together. If something happens to one, it happens to the other. So if the rider gets hurt, the dragon will also have that same injury, and vice versa. And that they're usually working for a specific purpose, that they would hold the same soul mission, they would have the same gifts, the same purpose. Hello, Elijah. They would be unfolding into a dynamic purpose of why they needed to be separated, to have, say, for example, a humanoid form or a starbeam form with a dragon, where maybe the dragon has to step back and can't go forward into the village because it's only humanoid type beings or star beings, and they wouldn't be received. So, but the rider has work to do there, so they would go into that place and do whatever needs to happen. But if anything was happening to either of them, one gets sick, one gets hurt, one dies, that will also befall the other. They're so closely connected. And that can be as an incarnational fractal. So I could actually go and on a downline of my experience from my soul level dragon, decide that I want to have an incarnation like that as an experience and break off in that lower, say, branch of the tree, that lower off the trunk. But there are those that at soul level have that split right at the top of the tree. That's how I perceive dragon riders. And an interesting piece about dragon riders is we always picture them, because we're human, as like a human form riding a dragon. And I've come to understand or experience in my work with different dragon riders that the rider doesn't have to be a dragon. It can be, say, a unicorn or starbeam or, any other form you might think of, where they are just part of the same, and those are the expressions that was chosen. I do still feel like they come from a framework of dragon at the core, to have the dragon aspect of it, but the rider doesn't have to be human looking. So that might trigger some of you of, whoa, no wonder I was feeling this or that. So that's the dragon rider piece, and those are the two most commonly that I discuss or that I talk about or bring up. And lately, or last week, I guess, the DragonKeeper piece, it's a term that I've used, had around periodically, but it's not as common. It doesn't come in as often. And you can sort of look at, if you understand Grid Keeper or Matrix Keeper, there's this aspect of like responsibility with that, the keeper of the matrix. So the DragonKeeper, when I sit with that energy and what that really means for those that resonates with, because you'll feel one of these terms really resonate more strongly with you than another. And the DragonKeeper is, I realized there were twofold aspects of it. And one is being that guardian, where you are literally a keeper of a dragon. And that can be a singular dragon. It can be a crush or a nursery of dragons, where they're in your fold, that you're responsible for them, like a shepherd. In fact, we've had the term dragon shepherd come through in some of my readings, where they were literally, their position was one that wasn't a dragon themselves, but their responsibility in multiple incarnations has been to be working with the dragons and be their shepherd into different places where they needed to go, sort of like a tour guide or a shepherd, literally. But the keeper, to be that guardian of dragons, would typically be with young dragons in different places. It might have more expansions into that, but you can feel for that for yourself. If DragonKeeper is something that's resonating, is it that guardian aspect? Am I a keeper of dragons in some way, or a shepherd? And what does that look like? How do I do that? And why do I do that? You can let that unfold into your knowing. And then the other piece, where I feel DragonKeeper is an appropriate term, is where there's an agreement between a dragon and a rider that isn't a soul level split. that a dragon might come across, or a being might come across a dragon, and that they make an agreement to experience it. That soul wants to experience like a dragon rider thing, but they don't have the dragon piece within them to become their own split dragon rider. That there's some level in the energetics that they have to have that base level makeup to even have the dragon piece present, which is interesting because then it leads to the contemplation or question of, well, if I can go and express and choose to incarnate in any form I can others come in and express as dragon? Possibly they can, but I don't feel like they can express as dragon rider, because you have to be able to then split again with that. That's coming from the original makeup and the framework of dragon to be able to have both present in a singular incarnation. So a dragon keeper could be one that makes an agreement with a dragon, or a dragon makes an agreement with another being to have a dragon rider experience where they are not linked in the sense of if something happens to one, it happens to the other as directly, but they would still be responsible for each other and guarding each other to explore how tightly that relationship could be. And it's something that would be done like on a soul level contract before going down into an incarnational body in any planetary or star system. That would be like something they agree on, so that they don't really realize that they're not already a deep team, that they just come in and they're that team from the get-go, and they have to work it out. They have to figure out how to protect each other and how to interact and always have that other part. Much like we choose to have twin flame relationships here, say on Earth, where a lot of people have that expression or that expansion, and they're having to work that out. They're having to go through those dynamics of a relationship where they know like they can't split. They're stuck together for good and bad and whatever, that they're going to work through all the differences that they have in their own makeup as like man and woman, or in this case as dragon and keeper. So hopefully that makes sense and gives a little insight. Hello, Annabelle. I'm missing all the names of those popping on. Good to see you guys. The other piece that was just a post I saw today, I thought, well, that's perfect to add in since we're talking about descriptive terms or definitions of these different aspects of dragon energy. And so the question was about dragon and serpent. Are they related? What is the relationship there? What's the difference? So for me, dragon and serpent are very different, because dragons are not reptilian, whereas serpent energy is reptilian for me. Dragons, like the dinosaurs, are an avian lineage. Historically, they have more of a avian or bird makeup in their genetic coding, whereas reptilian, like the Draco-reptilians, the lizards, the serpents, they're a totally different species. And so when you compare, all right, well, dragon and serpent, aren't there serpentine form dragons? There are. So dragons can take, this is actually sort of one behind me, the Pleiadians, even though they have all the appendages, their body is much more serpentine than those that have the full breastbone and sit on and use either 2 or 4 legs like haunches. In the typical dragon format that we often see, a serpentine dragon doesn't have to have wings, doesn't have to have appendages. If you look through all the Asian style of dragons, you'll see that representation where it's a serpentine form, and yet dragon head. It's definite dragon energy. It's still that same avian lineage, but how do they move? They actually undulate their bodies. There's a movie, I think it's called The Dragon's Pearl, possibly. It's been a long time since I've seen it, that had a gold dragon in that they animated it so perfectly of how it undulated through space, through the air. But dragons that are serpentine, they can undulate through any matter. So they can go like earth dragons. Most of those are serpentine and they go through the dirt. A water dragon can go through the dirt, can go through those ether things. They will move through any matter in that same way, undulating their body. But serpentine dragons can have wings and no legs. They can have legs and no wings, or they can have both legs and wings, or none. There's so many body types. It's interesting, but they are definitely still from that dragon format. That's more of an avian species, whereas the serpent energy, and even people have asked often about Kundalini versus dragon awakening. And I do feel that they're very different. Kundalini is a life force energy that is something that rises up like that serpent up through us. I'm not going to say that I'm positive on this. I just feel the information flowing, and I haven't spent time with it. It's just rising right now as, oh, that's interesting. That reptilian aspect with the serpent, if we've had our genetics manipulated to be stuck down, this is fascinating. I hadn't had this information come in before. If we are dropped down in a third dimensional density here with veiled layers keeping us here, partly because our divine blueprint, our genetic coding was manipulated by the reptilians. That was all part of the master plan. And we come down here. Isn't it interesting that it takes a serpentine energy rising up the spine to undo that as we come into a soul level awakening and potentially then open to a full light body merge or ascension process? Is that what they had to provide, as if you can go through this level of awakening or activate things in your body, this life force will actually come back into play as if it's unwinding or reconnecting the genetics that were manipulated, distorted, or broken. Wow. There's a little piece of insight that I think is going to be a turning point for me in really understanding that Kundalini energy. And the awakening of the dragon energy is very different in my experience. The awakening of the womb dragon up in and through your power center, but also the awakening of those energies in and through the heart center and the wisdom center when you merge with your own dragon. That dragon energy is for everyone. Everyone has that womb dragon, whether they are a dragon or not, in human form. It's part of as grid keepers for this realm. I'm seeing now that we had this piece to unlock with the Kundalini, with the serpent energy, and the piece to unlock with the dragon, almost as if they are opposing forces, both holding keys of this is where your divine blueprint lies, and this is the veil, the key to unlocking the veil up your spine so that you can actually move then into that. It's like, here's your go key, and now you can actually unlock and awaken that dragon energy to then move into an ascension process. The other pieces through the heart and the wisdom center would be for those that are actually dragon at their core, those DragonHearts, those dragon riders, some DragonKeepers that are still part of that dragon lineage, but are keepers, as we just discussed. So that is a really fascinating revelation today for me that, you know, I love these questions because they bring on things that I don't just sit and think of when I'm just, you know, in my work or between sessions or in class. New information comes or is remembered and brought through when you guys ask these questions. And so I love that new insight. That is an awareness that I'm going to take home with me now. I'm already home, but I'm really going to allow that to expand within my field for my groups, my classes, because there's some real gold within that, with the two pieces that need to be unlocked for our full ascension process and a return to our divine blueprint. So great questions. I will make sure and tag the gal who just posted today about dragon and serpent and go back and see if I can remember who asked me about the dragon rider, heart, and keeper. So if I didn't go into it deeply enough for you today, let me know in the comments and we'll discuss it again next week. We'll go further in. But this is a great starting point. You can also look back on any of my other YouTubes and see if you can do a search and find, maybe I touched on it in a subtly different way that will expand it for you. Because we always want to just keep expanding that energy, expanding what you're opening into. And the more that we trigger those fields of, all right, I know I have this information within me, unlock it, let it be spoken. And that's my job here as your guide with the dragons. That's really when Tana comes in and we sit and let that flow. I love, it was described today in a session almost like how you open it and have a library behind you and the books just start talking. And then it comes through because it's remembered. It's already soul level access and you have your own soul level knowing about maybe not dragons, but different topics that are your core strengths, your core knowings from all of your soul experience. So it's always exciting to move more into that as we unlock these keys and move forward in our ascension journey. So knowing we're still in those energies coming off of Easter, hopefully this was insightful and led you another step down the pathway And I look forward to seeing you guys when we come on next week. Maybe Tuesday, may not be. We'll see. Being in the flow of it, and this felt right for today. So very, very much appreciate my dragon family. Big hugs to each of you. Dragon hugs in particular. Many of you know I sign all my emails with dragon hugs. And someday when you meet me, you'll get one in person because they are potent. To feel that dragon embrace and that dragon breath across your neck or back or ear. It's something that I love doing. All right, much love to everybody. We will see you guys next time.